Namaste, Jai Bharat. Detachment is a concept which is often suggested by many, in fact, most of the Bharatiya gurus, for people to practice to end miseries and sufferings. We find everyone, all of them, asking people to practice detachment at various levels. They all say that the sufferings and miseries are due to attachment. All kinds of attachments, the arena of attachments are so vast that people can have attachments to all kinds of things. And attachment brings sufferings. This is a fundamental thought in most of the Bharati systems. It is Buddha who had popularized in the sense who had put the vision of detachment into a entirely different system of order. He talks about the Four Noble Truths, and which says that suffering is natural in the world. Then he says if there is suffering, there is a reason, there is a cause to suffer, and if there is a cause, it can be understood and removed. And to remove the suffering, you go into the eightfold path of Samyak Drishti, Samyak Sankalpa, Samyak Drishti, all kinds of things. And he very explicitly says that everything, all your suffering is due to attachment. So immediately the suggestion is that you practice detachment. Same thing you find in almost all systems of Bharatiya Darshana. Now, from where the concept of attachment comes to all Bharatiya thinkers is from Upanishads. Upanishads would teach us Tyaktena Bhunjita. Tena Tyaktena Bhunjita. That is the very strongest advocacy of detachment. That is, when you are involving in anything, that's put in a more metaphysical manner. When one is involved in anything, when one involves in anything, the involvement shall be or must be through a process of sacrifice. Sacrifice means not involving. Sacrifice here means involving through detachments. You are in it, but you are not affected by it. Your attachment comes only once you are affected. And you are in it, but you are not affected by it. That is Tyaktena Bhunjita. That's a beautiful Upanishadic mantra. Now, let's see what is the problem when we have attachments. Coming to more mundane level, these are the theories, these are the philosophies behind evolution of the concepts of detachment from attachment in almost all systems of Bharatiya Darshana. Now, what happens when one is attached? It's a very complicated phenomenon, but interesting at the same time. One is attached to something, and you say my car. When you say my car, you're subconsciously or unconsciously identifying the my with an object outside, car here. My should imply yourself. So what happens is you identify yourself with an object. This goes on. You talk about my shirt, my anything, my pen, my shoes. Now here what happens is this identity, a kind of identity, is created when you say it's my this thing, my hand, for instance. And this is another context. So suppose once you unconsciously identify yourselves with an object in the world, then the repercussion you watch, whatever happens to that object in the world also happens to you internally, and that is where the suffering begins, the miseries begins. You talk about your shirt. For some unfortunate, you like a shirt and you are very happy wearing it. Then something happens to the shirt. For example, it gets torn accidentally. What strikes you immediately is melancholy, grief, sadness from what happened to the shirt, because you are already identifying yourselves with that object outside. So whatever happens to that object also happens to you. This is a fundamental principle or process where one gets into suffering, one gets into sadness, one gets into unhappiness. Generally, of course, everyone says, detachment you have to practice, don't involve. There again, Taktena Bhunjita principle comes. You endure whatever in the world, but don't involve mentally with it. You can do it, and people keep doing it. If it is there also, it is fine. If it is not there also, equally fine. You are not mentally involved. There, yes. Not there, yes. No. Nothing happens to you. You are not suffering. So, in most of the Bharatiya knowledge tradition, they have highlighted this principle of detachment from attachment, because attachment brings miseries and suffering, and once you're detached, you won't experience this kind of miseries and sufferings. Who suffers here? The object certainly doesn't suffer. Nobody else and nothing in the world suffers. You, yourself, and yourself suffers, and nobody can share that suffering with you. So detachment becomes an important thing to practice while living in a common place. Even tasty food. You can even practice detachment from tasty food. Why one gets so drawn to that tasty food? You can always taste it, you can always have it, but why get involved? So, Tyaktena Bhunjita is the Upanishadic principle. It's good if one can practice detachment. It's good if one can practice detachment. And let's see, we'll meet again with some other simple thoughts which can create series of thoughts in the listener's mind. Till we meet again, Namaste. Jai Bharat, Jai Sri Ram.